Hi, all the people. Hello, all the people on all of the platforms, on all of my devices. It's amazing how profesh I am with my devices. Two devices going, so my eyes are like between the two cameras all the time. Oh, yeah. If someone figures out a way. So far, I haven't heard a way yet, but if someone figures out a way to like go live to both Facebook and Instagram at the same time, which are my current two preferred platforms, do let me know. Do let me know. So I'm not setting up two devices every single time. It's fine. Okay. You know what I'm going to do? Just like while I'm figuring out some shoes here, let's just move my mic up a little farther. There we go. Woo. Okay. Hey. I think I'm ready now. Yeah, ready to go? Okay, good. Hey, welcome to some live office hours with me, Shannon Coates, Dr. Shannon Coates. That's me. Okay, welcome to live office hours. I'm going to be like talking about effective ways to be the. I called this one the secret to more effective teaching. Y'all. That's a little manipulative, and there really isn't a secret. It's not a secret. It's just like a thing. So we're going to talk about that in just a minute. And that secret really, just trust your students. But like, what does that look like in practical application? I'm going to talk about that in a minute. First of all, oh, thank you. Yeah. One, two, three. We're going to talk about that. Kelly's coming in here. Anywho, yes. So we're going to talk about one of the big old secret, which is really just trust your students. But Kelly, you're making me laugh. I love it. Here is the thing. I am Dr. Shannon Coates. I am coming to you live from a spot that is north of Toronto, in a little tiny town here, which are the traditional lands of the Haudenosaunee, the Anishinaabe, the Mississauga, and the Wendat-Wet'suwet'en peoples. And I just came across an article and YouTube, etc. thing about an Indigenous woman who, at the age of 79, did her educational dissertation, so got her doctorate in education, and her thesis focuses on the importance of Anishinaabe traditional knowledge in higher education, because traditional knowledge is passed along orally, right? And we're not going to go into all of that, but and how there is such a preference, what shall I say, preference for information that is passed through text, right? Through written text. So I am very interested to get my hands on that dissertation. Just another thing to like read about oral tradition. Anyway, it's fine. So I will put the link to the YouTube video about her, where she's talking about her dissertation and about oral tradition and passing along of traditional knowledge through oral tradition. It is fascinating and something that you may be interested in. Anywho, I will put that link. Oh, her name is Jacques Lavallée. So there you go. Okay. Right. So it's really easy for me to say, the secret to effective teaching is to trust your student. So easy, right? For me to be like, oh yeah, that's all you have to do is just trust your student. Because like, what does that actually look like in real life? Because this was not, this wasn't super modeled for me in my voice lessons. In some ways it was, but it wasn't in lots of ways it was not. This philosophy of trusting the student, that was not modeled for me in my voice lessons. And it certainly wasn't made explicit to me in my studies. And so this philosophy of education, where student-led learning, self advocacy as a learner, developing learning skills, becoming the goal of the educator, rather than having these external goals of like, you need to be able to do this. I don't know. You need to be able to pass this exam, right? Having these external goals, having these goals that are based on developing learning and agency and self-directed learning in the voice studio or in the educational system. That's an educational philosophy that is not necessarily embraced. Certainly wasn't really explicitly anyway a part of my training through my university training. Certainly not, and was not modeled for me in my independent, in my voice lessons with one-on-one voice teachers through my training. So it's all kind of, and so this is not something necessarily that we learn as voice teachers, right? Because it's not necessarily modeled for us. It's not necessarily taught explicitly, right? This isn't really something that we learn. So it's often, in many cases, it's something we kind of come to, but then what does it look like in practical application in the voice studio? And so just before I go there, where I kind of unpack a couple of ways that how this plays out, how this trusting your student, trusting the singers you work with, trusting that they have everything they need already inside of them. Like, what does that look like in the voice studio? Let me say a couple of things first. The more I work with people like Heidi Moss, and the more I, understand the neurology of learning, I may not even be saying that right, but, the more I understand how the brain works and how we acquire information and how we acquire motor skills, the more validated I feel about the philosophy of pedagogy that I embrace. So this pedagogical philosophy that I embrace, which is about, embracing and supporting students as they find agency and trusting the student in front of me. Because I'm always coming through from this pedagogy angle, right? From this philosophy of pedagogy, and and especially through a neurodiversity affirming lens, as you likely know. So I'm always coming through this depathologizing of behavior and supporting learning and supporting student agency and all of that. I'm coming through from that sort of angle, from this pedagogical, this philosophy of pedagogy, and then the things that are the sort of, I think, are the natural outcome of this philosophy of pedagogy. So the things that you're going to do, the way you're going to teach, if you are thinking the student already has all that they need within themselves, or they already have, like, I'm going to trust the student. The things that we change in our teaching are really great things that we want to change anyway, because that's the way the brain works best to learn things and acquire information and to acquire motor skills. So so that's a little bit about how we learn 101 and how we teach 101, which are the classes that I'm doing in like 2 weeks, just over 2 weeks. That's what's going to be happening in those classes. We're going to be coming to an understanding of some of the practical application of how I'm gonna do my best to marry if you want the brain science, if you want the brain science and the learning science, go work with Heidi Moss or all of the folks who are working in that, in that way, specifically from the brain science, for sure. What I'm doing in the how we learn and how we teach classes is from a pedagogical philosophy of teaching, where we're like, okay, student-led, student agency, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Oh, and by the way, this works because the brain likes it because of X, Y, Z. So that's what we're going to do. And then we're going to have lots of practical application with Cindy in the panel. So that's coming up in a couple weeks. Okay. Going to try to marry those two. I actually took some notes today. So I actually made some notes. Normally I'm just right off the top, and I got some notes here. So 3 ways. Let's start with 3 ways that this philosophy of trusting the student, trusting the singer in front of you, will change your teaching, that I've already talked about. Okay, so three things that I've already talked about, or that that I talk about lots. So one is non-punitive attendance and cancellation policies, right? So we create cancellation policies based on the fact that I can trust the student to know when they're not going to have, they can't do a lesson for whatever reason. Mental health, physical health, just exhausted, all of those things. I trust that they know when it's not a good time for them to take a voice lesson. So I trust them. What does that mean? That means that I change my studio policies, my cancellation policies, my attendance policies from non-punitive to supporting and normalizing mental health, or just taking a day off because you need it. I do that. And I've talked lots about how that looks in the voice studio. So take a look at some other videos, some other live office hours, if you want some more practical information about how that works. But that is one outworking of like, I trust the singers I work with. And this is more like studio policy rather than like teaching. But here's another thing. We support singers' rep choices. Again, I've talked about this lots too. We support singers' rep choices rather than assigning all of the rep ourselves, right? Because I trust the singers I'm working with. So I trust them to, and I give the singers I'm working with options, right? So rather than assigning rep, I give them options. We work together to find options. Why? Because I trust the singer I'm working with, and I trust that they have all of the information. I give them the information they need, maybe, to make some choices. We're going to talk about that in a minute too. But that is another sort of practical application or an outcome of how trusting the singers we work with shows up in the voice studio when choosing rep. And the brain science behind this is the more interested you are in something, the more motivated you will be to learn it or do it. What? So like the more internally motivated you will be to do it, right? So the more I assign a thing that is like far out of what they're interested in, the less likely they are to learn it or do it or to acquire the skill. Shocking, I know. We don't always know the right thing for the singer in front of us. Okay, so that's the second thing I've talked about lots. So another thing I've talked about lots in terms of teaching, like how this affects our pedagogy, is what Kelly was referring to earlier. Actually, no, I was going to say something else instead. Sorry, Kelly, I might come into the other one. Yay, Kevin, yeah, right? Kevin Michael Murphy. One thing that I've talked about quite a lot is the tendency for us as teachers to over-explain, to go into the cognitive, right? To talk lots, basically. I talk about the talk to sing ratio in voice lessons, right? I talk about like, if your talk to sing ratio is skewed toward more talking than singing, we got to find ways for you to get to the singing part, because the way we learn to sing is by singing, not by talking about it and not by understanding it, right? That's cognitive, and we want motor skills. So we want to understand the thing. I may not be using exactly the right words, but to describe the processes here, but hopefully it's clear enough that we all know where I'm going with this. So when we decide to demonstrate more and explain less in the voice studio, why do we do that? Well, because pedagogically it's terrific, but also we do that because we trust the student's body to acquire the coordination. I trust that the student doesn't have to hear me talk to acquire the coordination. So there's a trust factor with the student there, with the singer that we're working with. I'm also working hard to remove the terminology like my student, my singer, I have a singer, I have a student even. I'm working hard to remove that terminology out of my like vocabulary, not necessarily because it's incorrect or anything like that, but I really like the idea of positioning myself as someone who works with singers, as someone who, as I have singers I work with, as opposed to that like ownership of the singers I work with. So I really I've been thinking about that quite a lot lately. So that's something that I squirreled. That's not written down. There you go. Singers. So the singer I work with, or the, I like that better. Yeah, Lydia, thank you. Yeah, I really like that, that kind of reframe, right? Yeah. Thank you. I'm glad. Feel free to use it if it works for you. I like it a lot better. I get a little cringy actually when people are like, I have a 6-year-old. I'm like, do you though? You don't own the 6-year-old, do you? No, you work with a 6-year-old. Anywho, all good. Right. So, a couple of ways that this shows up then that I haven't talked about as much, and a few things that this, yes, brain is in all your body. So true. So true. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and this speaks to this, just to go back to that cognition versus body, right? Head versus body thing. It speaks to our understanding of the body and the way the body works. If we decide that the best way to teach someone how to sing, whoa, that doesn't need quotes, but anyway, just teach someone how to sing is to explain the singing to them, because then we're like preferencing cognition over the actual doing the thing. You want to do the thing. Anyway, okay. So so a couple of things that have come up in the socials recently, on the teacher forums and stuff recently that I just think when we come to these things with a trust the singer philosophy, it changes things, right? So one of the things was one of the teachers who was in one of the groups that I'm a part of on social media was talking about how they had worked with a singer to really get them ready to participate in a recital, and how exciting it was to see that progress, and how that singer was, had really come such a long way, and then the singer, I don't know, a week before or just before the recital, flat out refused to do the recital. And so that was really disappointing for the teacher, really disappointing for the teacher, after all of this hard work, and after all of the support that had gone into making sure that singer was ready and prepared to sing in the recital, right? And so and I think it's important to acknowledge that is it's super disappointing when we feel like someone is ready to do this and they're ready to share their joy over, because they've learned this piece, and they're ready to share their joy with the rest of the studio. They're ready to share their voice. And that can be super disappointing, right? And at the same time, things change when we determine, hey, Wendy, when we determine to intentionally trust the singer we're working with, rather than, we acknowledge this is disappointing, of course. And we say, hey, the singer knows best. The singer, I can trust this singer to know for themselves, especially this was an adult singer. This was an adult, like, I don't know, adult-y, over 50 singer. So like the singer really does know best, right? Like this is an adult person. They know best. So when I reframe to I trust the singer, what happens? I then change from, I'm so disappointed that you're not singing in the recital because you're, everyone really wanted to hear you sing, and, this is such a great way to show your progress, and it's a way to, to celebrate your progress, etc. It changes from that to, what is a meaningful way for you to mark your progress on this piece if you would like to? For you, what is meaningful? So singing in a recital is what I, as a voice teacher, find meaningful. Why do I find that meaningful? Because, my whole life, that's what I've done, right? I've sung in auditions. I've sung in festivals. I win the festival. I sing in an audition. I, blah, blah, blah. I sing on stage. I perform. I love to perform. I love the accolades. I love, that's how I have been trained as a singer. I've been trained that the ultimate expression, yes, Kelly's saying all the stuff they learned getting ready for that performance is still with them. Of course it is, right? We've been so trained, and especially as voice teachers in an independent studio in this industry, and in what we're doing is we've been so trained that the ultimate expression of joy and the most meaningful way to celebrate progress in singing is to share your singing with other people in a concert or in a recital or in your studio with the other studio members. Yes. Oh, yeah. Yeah, exactly that. It's a paradigm shift as teachers to put our egos in the learning more than in the final product. Absolutely. Where we support the learning and then the where we take our mind off of the final product as being the goal, and we put learning as the goal, then the final product becomes the outcome, right? It becomes the inevitable outcome. So then the shift then becomes, okay, so what, we start to ask questions like, so what is meaningful for you then? How do you want to? Yes, I love that. I love that question, right? That came to me from a dear friend of mine who is in a different context, but yes, Sarah, if you're out there, that was you. What is meaningful for you? What would be a meaningful way for you to celebrate this, to share your joy in this celebration? Do you have joy in this? Does it feel like it's a milestone to you? Do you feel like you've had this? Do you feel like it's an accomplishment? I mean, maybe those are the questions to ask too, right? And if so, then what's a meaningful way for you to celebrate this? I would love to be able to celebrate. Some of the ideas that people had were to, record and play it at the recital, perhaps to invite, a family member into the studio. I also thought that some other meaningful ways might be to ask the singer if they would like to express their joy in the process and how they feel about the song in some other art medium, right? So perhaps they are a fine artist, perhaps they're a painter, perhaps they're perhaps they knit, perhaps they do embroidery, perhaps they whatever. I mean, there's so many other mediums, so many other artistic mediums. Perhaps they would like to simply read the poem, perhaps that's in the song. Perhaps they would like to, I mean, there's so many other ideas and ways that you can express how this sort of, accomplishment, what it means to you, and that you can use your voice to express. So there are lots of other ways, right? And when we trust the student that we're working with, when we trust the singer we're working with to come up with that meaningful way, I think our minds will be blown by the incredible creativity and ways that people like to express themselves. Okay, so preparing it. Oh yeah. Okay. So another one that came up in the socials just recently too was this is Nick Perna. I got onto his soapbox on his amazingly beautiful soapbox. Which needs to be even bigger so we can all get on it, about an adjudicator making a comment on a singer's appearance. I don't remember exactly now whether the comment was on what they were wearing or whether it was on body type or something along those lines. But anyway, it was on appearance. So they made a comment in an adjudication situation on the comment sheet about that singer's appearance. Hi, Miss Jackson Hearns. And so this, I mean, there were absolutely lots of people who were like, "Oh my gosh, that should never happen." And of course, the things are changing where we're realizing, yeah, this is not appropriate. And at the same time, there were lots of folks saying, okay, this is something that we should be addressing in the voice, in our lessons. The independent voice teacher should be addressing this. Your one-on-one voice teacher should be addressing what you wear, what roles according to body type, all that kind of thing, right? And I would like to propose to you that if you trust the singer you work with, you don't have to address it. I would like to propose that. So what does that look like in real life? So to my shame, I have talked to singers that I have worked with about their body size. I am very sorry about that. And it came from a well-intentioned place. So many things do, don't they? So many super hurtful things come from a well-intentioned place. Because I thought that it was my job, in my job description as a voice teacher, to make sure that they knew that if they wanted to sing in this industry, they would probably have to lose weight. And that's just the nature of this stinky industry. And I'm really sorry, blah, blah, blah. I have also recital prep information. I have sent out information that says things like no heels over 2 inches, dress for comfort. I have said that. Certainly dress for comfort and to feel snazzy. And also no running shoes I have put parameters around what people should and should not wear in their recitals. To my shame, if I could go back, here are the conversations I would have, which are similar, I might say, to the conversations that I have with my kids now around this. So before a recital, let's address that one first. Before a recital, or before an audition, before a competition, before you're going to be adjudicated, all of those kinds of things. Hey, 4 weeks before, what do you want to wear? Let's talk about it. What do you want to wear? Amazing. Let's talk about, you want to wear heels? Amazing. Let's bring those heels in to all of your lessons from now on in so that you get used to singing in them. Let's figure out how your body responds to being in heels, and let's figure out whether you like it more or less. Let's figure out whether the confidence that those heels are giving you is making you sing better because you're confident, right? Heels can give you so much confidence. The socialness of that, that's a whole other thing, but they can. So let's figure out if the way you want to dress for whatever you're going to be doing is going to give you confidence. It's going to make you feel amazing. If it is, we will work all the things to figure out how your body can respond in that moment and how your body can respond to singing in 5-inch heels. If that's what feels amazing, that's what feels amazing. Let's go. Let's figure this out. There is no way that you can not sing in 5-inch heels, especially if you are, a 20-year-old singing like 2 songs in a recital. Dude, I don't have to prepare you for anything. If you're going to go into a career, all I have to do is give you the options, right? That's my job, is to help you make the decisions you want to make, to give you the information and the stuff you need, the options you need to make the decisions you want to make. My job is not to say, hey, if you sing in heels, you're going to be, if you sing in 5-inch heels, it's going to hurt your body and you shouldn't ever do it. It's going to lock your body up. That's not my job. My job is, let's experiment with 5-inch heels and see what your body does. And let's see whether we can get to like a place where your body feels amazing singing in 5-inch heels. And if it doesn't feel amazing singing in 5-inch heels, then you have choices. If you're going in to do an audition, you have a choice. You're only singing for 20 minutes. You have a choice. If you're singing a 2-hour recital, maybe you don't want to sing in heels, but you've got the choice. It's not about whether or not you should or should not do the thing. It's about whether you have the choice to do the thing. If we've got, yes, my job is to teach you to think critically, to learn exactly, to have agency, to make the choices that feel aligned for you. Yes, Liz, thank you. Putting all the right words in for me. I appreciate that. Yes, that's my job. My job is not to tell you what you should and should not do. My job is to give you the options and help you think through them. So if you want to wear a really short skirt on stage and the stage is high and the people who are watching you are underneath you and they might see your underwear. I mean, so? So here's what I'm going to do. As your voice teacher, I'm going to say, hey, here's the science. You may be on a really high stage. If you're going to wear a short skirt, here's what's going to happen. People might see far up your skirt, farther than you want to, or maybe you don't care. And if you don't care, I don't care either. You're allowed to make those choices. Here are some of the possible repercussions of that choice. People are going to judge you. People are going to write nasty little comments on your adjudication sheet. Now, yes, maybe you don't care. Exactly. Maybe you don't care if someone can see up your skirt. That's your choice. So I can say then, hey, if you don't care and people are able to see up your skirt, there are going to be some people who are going to have a reaction to that. That's not your problem at all. Their reaction is their issue, right? If you've got a guy in the audience who thinks a 16-year-old wearing a short skirt on stage is slutty, that's their problem. Yeah. If you're someone in the audience watching a 16-year-old and thinking, God, they're so slutty, ew, or they're too sexy, no, that's not on them. That's on you. That's what's happening in your brain. Anywho, nodding furiously. Thank you. Right? So I say, here's what's going to happen. You're going to get some reactions until society changes. You're going to get some reactions for sure. And it's up to you whether you have the emotional energy to do the education and to hold up under that circumstance or not. Right? It's up to you. Do you have I'd say this too for folks who are perceived as male and who want to wear a skirt. You're perceived as male and you want to wear a skirt? Amazing. Wear a skirt, wear a dress. And understand that you're going to get some reaction there, and the reaction is on them. It's not on you. And at the same time, it's going to require you to have an emotional fortitude there. Do you have the emotional fortitude? Do you have the strength right now to make these, to frankly confront some things in society? Do you want to be that person right now? You can decide. Maybe one time you do want to be that person, maybe one time you don't, and that's fine. You get to decide. So maybe you still want to wear a skirt, but you don't necessarily want people to see your legs. Fine, wear bike shorts. You can wear a skirt and wear bike shorts underneath, and then you get to still wear your skirt and feel amazing and wear your bike shorts underneath. It's fine. Oh, with Jackson Hearns. I love you. You can do that thing, right? You have the option. I, as your voice teacher, it's not my responsibility to teach you how to do auditions right. It's not my responsibility to teach you how to dress appropriately. It's not my responsibility. I love the weird face. It's not my responsibility to teach you, to prepare you for a career or to prepare you to do an audition or look right in an audition. It's my responsibility to give you choices and to help you to find out and options, and to support you, as you say, and to support you when you make the choice that's going to get people annoyed, right? That's going to bring up some stuff in other people. That's my responsibility, is to say, if you make this choice now that is going to it's going to make some people say some things, amazing. I will be here. I will be right beside you. I will be on it. I will stand up for you if you want me to. How do you want me to be in this situation? I can take all the blame if you want. I'm a voice teacher. I'm strong. I can say, hey, I told them to do it. If you want, right? How can I support you in making this choice if you want to make this choice? So it's not about and so we have these conversations too with wearing makeup, not wearing makeup. deciding to present in a specific way, deciding not to present in a specific way. You can make all the choices you want. You just need to understand when it's going to cost you more and whether or not that cost, whether you're able to pay the cost at that time. You get to make those choices. And me as the voice teacher, I'm like, hey, I can help you pay the cost. I can help if you want. As to body sizes, let's come back to the body size thing. Oh, sorry. So that's trusting your student. That's trusting and helping them to develop agency and helping them to supporting them, as they're developing agency and supporting them as they're figuring out what, how much I can give and what costs are and how much I have to be able to pay, right? Like what do I even have to be able to pay? That's trusting pedagogically. That's one way that turns out. And then for body sizes in the voice studio, I mean, this is so tied up in so many other things. So first of all, hey, trust that your student, the singers you're working with, if they are a fat person, they look in the mirror every single day and they know. It's not like they haven't figured it out, and that you, from the kindness of your heart, to say, ooh, it's going to be hard for you in the industry. So you might want to lose some weight. From the kindness of your heart, or, oh, you shouldn't try to do those roles. Like, you really shouldn't audition for that role because it's, that's the kindness of your heart. That is also you not trusting the singer you're working with. Yeah. So how does this look then in the voice studio? How does trusting the singer I'm working with in the voice studio, whether they're very thin or not? So if you're working with a very thin singer, or someone who is, considered traditionally, who has a conventional beauty or a conventional attractiveness, if you're working with someone who has that conventional attractiveness, which, there's a lot to unpack there too. But anyway, let's keep moving, or else these live episodes are going to be like 400 years long. Trusting means saying, hey, you have some privilege here because of this attractiveness and because of this typical look, and you've got some privilege here. It's going to be easier for you in some ways. What are some ways you can use this privilege to make space? What are some ways? Let's talk. Let's figure this out. How can you use this privilege to make space? And then when you're working with singers who have big bodies, hey, when you audition for Belle in Beauty and the Beast, same thing as when we were talking about making choices before. You may get some pushback. You may get some because society is not where it needs to be yet. It's fine. You may get some pushback on this. Their reactions are on them. Their feelings are on them. Their feelings of whatever they're feeling, that's all on them. That's on them. What you need to decide is how much emotional fortitude do you have to break this barrier? That's what you got to decide. We're going to go in singing like a kick-ass singer. It's going to be amazing. You're going to embody the character. It's going to be amazing. And how much fortitude do you have to fight? If you've got what it takes to pay this cost, I'm with you. I will help you pay. If you don't have what it takes to pay this right now, super fine. Absolutely fine. We will live to fight another day. And also, we will send that music director videos of Jamie Barton killing it out there as singing all the roles in a big body. Yeah, she is. So, they. I don't remember Jamie Barton's pronouns. I apologize. I think they might be they. Okay. That's how trusting looks. That's what trusting looks like in a couple of like outside of the studio, outside of pedagogy ways, like a couple of things that looks like. So in terms of trusting in the studio, which is more what we're going to talk about in how we learn and how we teach. So in terms of trusting, in terms of how this looks in our pedagogy and our actual teaching, like in our, when we're working with singers to learn singing, this looks at a couple of different ways. First of all, it looks like no immediate feedback from your face. That's one thing it looks like. It looks like no immediate feedback from your mouth. I mean, I've talked before about the growth of self-directed learning and how sometimes at the beginning of the learning series, folks need more feedback because we've taught them. And sometimes we have to wean folks off because we've taught them to take all of our feedback as like the God's honest truth and like to not trust anything in their own bodies. We've done that to them for sure. So like sometimes we have to wean. But if we're coming in, if we're able to, no feedback. It looks like giving that singer that you're working with 3 seconds to just process in their body, feel their feels, feel what happened in their body, not cognitively necessarily, in their body, somatically, if you will. And then it looks like asking questions, drawing awareness, bringing awareness. What changed for you? Oh, I'm so glad, Lydia. Yeah, what changed for you? How did you experience that? That's something that was Jackson Hearns says. How did you experience that? All of those questions, what did you notice about that? All of those questions. Those are teaching, what are you saying when you ask the questions without giving the feedback? What are you saying? You're saying, hey, you know what's best for your body. You know. And if you don't know yet, that's fine. We're going to start working on that. That's what we're working on. And then we can do a couple of different things. We can do something like, I noticed something about these 2 notes or something about this particular range or something about the way you said XYZ. Did you notice anything there? See how I didn't say what I noticed? I just said, I noticed a couple of things in XYZ. Did you notice anything there? All right. Try it one more time. Let's see what happens. That's trusting them and teaching them to trust themselves, teaching them agency, having choices in themselves. And something that also shows up really beautifully and that was demonstrated in the VoicePed Undergree. I'm going to just brag on Natalie Higgins, who is doing the VoicePed Undergree with me this year. And we had a lab this week where we teach for each other recordings of teaching, all that kind of thing, and we kind of talk about how to apply, how to get better at this teaching thing. And she did something extraordinary, which I just absolutely loved. And so I want to just bring it around and talk about this too. How does trusting a student come out when that singer says to you, so she asked some questions, drew awareness to some things, and the singer this was a young singer, by the way, and the singer got to the point where they said, it just feels bad. And you know what she didn't say? She didn't say, oh, no, it sounded great. It was amazing. No, it's fine. You're fine. She didn't say that. Why? Because she trusts the student. When you trust the student and when you trust that the singer in front of you actually is saying a thing that is meaningful for them, our hearts are to just like encourage them, right? And it hurts when they feel like it's bad. And you're like, no, it's not bad. It's amazing. But what is that doing? You're gaslighting them a little bit. It's actually a little gaslighting. You're not trusting the singer. what she did is she said, oh, do you have another word for bad? Is there another way that you can describe that? What's another word for bad? And then the singer was like, well, it just feels like I'm reaching. Okay, that's some good information, right? It feels bad. Not great information necessarily, but also I'm not going to negate that the singer felt bad. Because if I trust them, I'm going to trust that that is what they're actually feeling inside, and that that's what it actually feels like for them. And then I'm going to find some ways to, my go-to is always, oh, that's really interesting. Rather than, and sometimes, I'm sorry that felt bad. Now, I have worked with singers who call me out on this sometimes, because sometimes I will say, here's a little thing I will say sometimes. They'll say, oh, that felt really strained, or that felt like it was out of tune, or that felt blah, 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 right? So have a specific, these are well-trained singers, and they'll have specific like things that they're saying about the sound. And I will say, that's really interesting. My experience externally was not that. My externally listening to this, my experience was that it was in tune, or that it was, XYZ, or that it was XYZ. It's really interesting that you're feeling that it isn't that way. Let's figure out what's going on there. And this is, of course, with definitely a more experienced singers. And so I have been called out on that sometimes, because they're like, are you gaslighting me, Shannon? Like, no, I'm not. I'm just like, because sometimes there is a disconnect, right? There can be a real disconnect between what's actually happening and what we feel is happening. There can be a real disconnect, but that's an exploratory thing. That's a thing where we explore. Trust the singer. Okay. We're going to talk a lot more about this and about the science and how this all works together. How the science, the science supports the kind of pedagogy that happens when we trust the singers we're working with. The other thing that happens when we trust the singers we're working with is that you don't have to solve any problems. Your responsibility in the lesson, my heart, I know, is that you stop having to solve all the problems. Your teaching gets a lot easier, I promise. I mean, it's vulnerable and weird at first, as the folks in the voice ped degree are, because they're now like waiting 3 seconds. Literally, some of them are just like counting on the piano before they give any feedback or before they ask a question. And they're like, so awkward. I'm like, I know, because you're so used to just jumping in and giving your opinion right away out of the goodness of your heart. You're so used to doing it. And your students are used to hearing that. And they're addicted to it now, to their own detriment as singers, right? They're addicted to your opinion of their singing. Oh, so it can be so awkward when we get there. But trust me, it's easier as a teacher, because all you're doing then is empowering them to figure out how to sing and find the coordinations. You don't have to find them for them. If you're not a great diagnostician, I've talked about this before too. If you're not a great diagnostician yet, you can still be a really danged effective voice teacher. Oh, by trusting the singer you're working with. If you're not a terrific, if you don't know anything about anatomy and physiology, you can be a really danged effective voice teacher. Yeah, you can. If you don't know anything about, like, I don't know, the style that you're teaching and you've never even sung it before, I mean, that's not ideal. Because you want to at least understand what the tonal outcome is that we're going for, but you can still be a really danged effective voice teacher by not having any of this information, by trusting the singer you're working with. Pinky swear. Okay, we're going to talk more about this, obviously, in How We Learn 101 and How We Teach 101. I'll be talking more about that in a couple of weeks. So if you would like to join me there, please feel free, because that will be not just me going off like my scribbled notes here, but actual lecture style. So you get the information in a nice, cohesive manner, rather than me being like, squirrely. All right, friends. Have fun with that, eh? Maybe think a little bit like something to consider while you're working this week or next week, while you're working with singers next week is what's a way that I can trust the singer in this situation, that I can move away from giving my opinion first, giving my feedback first, that I can move away from policing bodies and clothes. And whether or not someone wears makeup or blah, blah, blah. What are some of my best intentions? What are some of the things I'm doing with the best of intentions that might change if I were thinking, that singer already has everything they need. We just need to figure out the options. What would happen? I don't know. Think about it. Let me know if anything changes for you. Okay, have a good day. I love seeing you on my feed, Liz Jackson Hearns. Take care. Hi, Emily from Holland. Well, not from Holland, but in Holland. Holland. Nederlands. Welkom. Okay, I'm gonna stop pretending to be Dutch. My sister lives in Holland. I don't know if you knew that or not. Yes, she's been there for over 20 years now. Like 25 years. Okay, talk to you later. Have a great weekend.